Hi, Jorge.
Hey Tracy.
How's it going?
Good, and you?
Good. I'm really excited to be pairing today on Ember-CLI. I heard that you have a new project going on, and I don't know. Do you want to just maybe we can just hop into it? And so Ember-CLI is one of the reasons why I got into Ember, or I was able to get into Ember, or even development so easily, right? Like sort of does everything for you. It's a it's really stable. Angular CLI is based off of Ember CLI, and that's actually one of the reasons why I'm doing Angular now because there's Angular CLI, and I'm able to do things and get productive really easily without having a lot of starting overhead. So I'm really excited to learn all about all the things you can do with Ember CLI today. Um, do you want to just get started and we can walk through
Sure.
everything?
So it's funny because I think I have a story very similar to yours. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I kind of chose Ember because Ember
Mm-hmm.
CLI is uh, it's very powerful, and it also brings you all the conventions in a more digestive way, so you can just
Mm-hmm.
understand it and use it. And then if you don't get some parts, you can still make your app, and then you can figure them out whenever you are as you get better at Ember. So to create a new app, we can just Ember new, and we then name the application.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Ember WP, which is the project that we're gonna be starting right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is about using Ember and WordPress as a backend,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a very interesting approach because it's easy to set up, and you can do it like in 10 minutes or something.
Really?
Yeah, because you can set up WordPress in like 5 minutes, and then you just use Ember data thanks to an add-on that Taras wrote.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
article I'm writing right now. So
Oh, that's exciting.
yeah, that's
Man,
actually
having
really
a
interesting.
backend with WordPress, I don't know. I mean, I like it for the Ember meetup site,
Yeah.
but I think we're gonna have to wait, are we actually doing that right now? Or are we like is it gonna be like am I gonna learn how to use Ember
Oh
WordPress
no.
as a backend?
No,
Who
that,
knows?
that would
YOLO.
be longer.
Yeah, okay.
No, actually, I have already an app that's already downloaded here, um,
Mm-hmm.
because it can take some time. So once you run Ember new, your Ember CLI is gonna set up the file structure here
Mm-hmm.
that contains basically the conventions that set up an
Mm-hmm.
application in Ember, and it also gives you another other convenient things such
Mm-hmm.
as uh, it gives you a Git repo already set up for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a blueprint for Travis, which is useful for continuous integration. That's it's the most popular thing on Ember. And then it also set up your packages handlers, which are Bower for some dependencies,
Mm-hmm.
and PM, which does pretty much the most heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so this can take some time because it's gonna get all those dependencies, which are like a lot, as you can see um, here. The nominals are quite extensive. So let's see which one's the one. So once you create the application, you have to go into the folder that it created for you, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can check what it did by serving it with EmberServer or EmberS or EmberServe.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh wait, I forgot to use the right version. Node version. That's it. I guess I can quit this. So that's, oops, I already have another application running. You can also change, like by default, Ember-CLI is gonna try to serve the application port 4200, but you can also change that to another one, like that.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's very useful.
Yeah, so wait, can you just define any port you want?
Yeah, as long as it's available on your computer.
Oh, wait, how can you find out what ports are available on your computer?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I only know how to do that through a user interface. Well, we can see it's. Oh wait, no, I don't actually remember. I usually just try, and it's most of the time it's gonna be available.
Like
Because
4200 or 5200?
yeah, and even if you try numbers in between, they're more likely going to be available.
Oh, you can do like port 1.
I don't think that's gonna be. We can always try.
That's cool though. Okay. Port 1.
I actually don't think you can. But anyways, oh no, it's already in use. Sorry.
Port 52. Okay, cool. Awesome. Learn something new. So dash dash port allows you to serve wherever you want. Okay.
Yeah, another interesting thing is that this EmberServer is an instance of an Express server, so it's just gonna behave like that.
Wait, what did you say? It's what?
An Express server, a
Uh-huh.
Node Express, is a framework for web servers. So that's what Ember-CLI setups for you. It's just to serve the assets.
Cool.
So then we can visit our new application. And now there's a really cool welcome page
Yeah.
that was included recently into
Yeah.
Ember-CLI. And yeah, we can get rid of it, as it says here. We're removing it from the package. Well, so first we're going to remove that, and then we're going to go ahead and create a route using Ember-CLI.
So what does a route generate for you?
Okay, so
Oh, removing the welcome page that's right there. Okay,
yeah.
in your package.json. Got it.
Wait, actually, I think I shouldn't be doing full screens. Okay. Okay, so that's the way I work, but I usually have EmberServer on one tab, and I use another tab to use Ember-CLI commands. However, you have to be aware that whenever you change package, you have to rerun EmberServer because it doesn't make that package's validation. As you can see, it didn't refresh the image, so it's gonna think that that package is still there. So if we install an add-on or anything like that, we have to reboot EmberServer. It's quite often we might forget that we're gonna go. Oh, why isn't this working? But it's because we didn't restart
Just
the server.
restart your server.
Yeah.
When all else fails, restart the server.
Yeah. It's just like Windows. And,
That's funny.
so here we can use generators. We can use generate, route. There's also a shortcut for generate, which is G, remember G. And then there's a set of blueprints that are available for us, like route or template component, and they create the files needed. So let's try a route. Let's see. Let's just say index, because yeah, this is going to make a change into the router, but not in this case. Well, actually, let's create another route called Tracy to see the differences between an index and a normal route when the generators go through them. So as you can see, the Tracy route is going to create a route handler, which is this JavaScript file associated with a template, and it's going to register that route into the router and creating a test. But when you create an index route, which can be, for example, we can also create a Tracy/index route. It's not going to register that into router because every route has an implicit index route. So that's why it didn't change. That's why we don't see an index here, but only a Tracy one. Because index is implicit in every route. But if we want to do something with the index, we have to have the handler. So that's here. Here's what Ember-CLI generates. Just the route handler here, which is the same for this one, and it also has a template for each of them. Another very cool feature that Ember-CLI handled for us is that it also supports nesting our routes. So we say Tracy, I don't know, something. It's going to parse that and recognize that we're trying to have a nested route. So it's going to make all the necessary setup for nesting, which means that it's going to create a folder within that. It's going to create something. And
that's the route handler.
Yeah, and also applies the same for the template.
Yeah.
And also register the nested route here on the router.
Magical.
Yeah, it's great. And another thing is that if you made a mistake, for example, if I didn't want something but something else, we can also use
Ember destroy. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Or just D, because you can get rid of everything.
Yeah.
It simply works. It gets rid of, because if you delete things manually, you might forget to delete something. So it's really useful to have it there. Yeah, that's pretty much what you need for routing in Ember-CLI, which is rather simple. So
what
let's
about
see.
all the generates that you can do? So you can do a handlebars file.
Yeah,
you
for
can
example,
do.
you may need templates, even if different from routes. For example, if we have to create a loading state, because Ember already provides us with some very useful features to handle loading, we can go ahead and create a loading template, because that doesn't need a route handler. So we can go and say Ember, we're using the shorthand here, G template, and say, there are two different ways of creating the loading template, but let's just use a very simple one. So this is just going to create a loading template and nothing else. Whatever we put here, it's going to be loaded whenever a model is being resolved in the application, automatically for us.
Cool.
And yeah, we can also create components, which is very, very handy, because quite often you need both parts of the component. So when we go and generate component and say title card or something, it's going to make the two files as we need. And actually, Taras showed me last week that we don't need actually both files unless we are actually using them for something. But
So you delete them.
yeah, it's actually cool because you can get rid of a lot of files. because
I
it's not
know.
always had. Yeah,
One
there are
time I
many cases.
generated a PR and he's like, delete all the files you don't need. I
Yeah,
was like, wow, okay.
I didn't know that either, but it's fun because you get rid of a lot of and loads of files, but
Okay,
it's
so
useful, yeah.
Ember-G component, Ember-G route, Ember-G template. What else
Yeah,
can we do?
we could also generate models.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we're using Ember data,
Mm-hmm.
you can go and say Ember generate model um, card. So that's gonna make that for us.
Do you only do models if you're, but it's not just like only, I mean, you have models even if you're not using Ember data, right?
Um, well, yeah, you could do that, but I've
But
never
like,
done that.
okay.
Because actually, model class is part of Ember data.
Hmm. Huh.
So
I've never used that. I
yeah,
don't have a lot of models in my apps. Okay, so Ember-G model, what else can we do?
we can also make helpers.
Uh-huh.
Oops.
Ooh, can we make a helper? I want to learn how to make a helper.
Yeah. Um, for example, embroidery helper. Let's say.
These are just like custom helpers in your app, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we can make an addition helper because I couldn't think of a better thing. Well, helpers are amazing. Like I'm in love with helpers now. Like they are so powerful and you can combine them. Like they are so awesome.
Uh-huh.
So there are two different ways of creating helpers.
Uh-huh.
The one that Ember-CLI generated for you is kind of the one that doesn't have a state.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only a function and its output is only dependent on its parameters,
Mm-hmm.
which is the definition of a function actually.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another kind of helper in which you can inject services and use the service and combine it with the parameters. But that's not here by default. It's just something that you have to know that if you want to use the other kind of helper, you have to write that yourself. And then once you create a helper, you can just use it in your template. As here, it's if we says if we had array here, array of number, we could get the output of those here.
Oh, so when you do that, you're defining basically the helper is called sum,
Yeah,
and then you might define array somewhere in
yeah,
the helper.
yeah. You could even no array is actually parameter here. So if we use another one, go. Oh no, actually there's no. Uh, we could have an object here. We could have it in the controller because the context of a template is the controller. So if we wanted to have an arbitrary variable here, we would have to generate a controller. So let's do that just to use Ember-CLI. We can also create controllers, and they are also going to follow the nesting. It's also
Mm-hmm.
gonna
Mm-hmm.
parse that part, but yeah. So now that we have a controller called Tracy here, we can go and say uh, some numbers and declare it here. Oh, actually, I don't need that. So now that I have some numbers in the context of the template, I can just go here and say that I want to get the result of the sum of some numbers, and it's gonna output that. Um, yeah, that's
Cool.
basically. And you could combine helpers in many ways. They are so amazing, but that was part of this experiment.
That's another one. That's another one.
Yeah, that's really cool. We have to talk about that sometime later.
We should just make a helper website.
Yeah.
What other things can you do with Ember-CLI?
So Another cool thing that you can do in Ember-CLI is to test your application.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because right now we only have like the blueprint test, which we have ignored a little bit this time. Every time you generate something with Ember-CLI, most of the cases it's going to generate test, because as you know, Ember is very test oriented, so it's here to help us make a clean development that includes tests. Um,
Mm-hmm.
However, this is a kind of a personal practice, but I don't usually use unit tests because it's kind of hard to actually test your application with unit tests, because usually these kind of apps have a lot of dependencies on other parts. So most of the time I'm writing integration tests for my components, because usually applications are built around components and acceptances to check how things are being calculated, are being rendered, and if the interaction is correct or not. Um, but yeah, the thing is that it gives you a test. You can also add other tests. For example, we can say Ember generate acceptance test, and then we just give it a name, because this is an interesting part about acceptance tests is that they do not have uh, a very strict bound on the name conventions. So you can just say like view tracy route, for example, and it's gonna create that acceptance for us.
So how do you generate? I guess you don't need to ever generate a unit test because like the unit tests are already there whenever you generate other things.
Yeah, but you can also generate them following a syntax that you can just guess.
Yeah, got it.
But you don't have to follow conventions here. Um, so I wanted to test controllers. Oh, actually, this is not the way to make this. I think you have to do it by the. Oh, so in case when you forget something, as in this case, we can go and say help, and it's going to help us
Oh, that's
remember
great.
how to do this, because I forgot to. So
What does help give you?
help gives you the available comments and the options you can pass to them.
Oh, I love it.
So for example, in here in EmberServer, here you see that here is the port, and you can also change the host. You can set a proxy, secure proxy when you don't have HTTPS on your test and your development environment. And that's the same for each command. You can see all the options, which
Ooh,
are quite useful.
yeah.
For example, if you already have a repo and you're creating a new app within a repo, you can just say skip git, because otherwise it's going to have a git repo there, and you're not going to be able to see that from your parent repo. So this has some
Oh my
very
God, that
useful.
makes me so happy. It's
Um,
basically the most magical Ember dash dash help, which I have done before, but maybe I've never like walked through it. Hmm. Ember
yeah.
generate blueprint.
Oh, actually, I couldn't find what I'm looking for. Oh, oh, boy. Oh, here has all the aliases. If you wanna write less, here to just one letter things. Um, I'm not sure how to check the blueprints. Maybe if we do go like this, might work. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, so it worked. So in this case, I wanted some more information about Ember Generate. So I
Mm-hmm.
ran Ember Generate dash dash help, and it gave me not only the information that was previously available, but it's also extended that info by showing me the blueprints that we can use.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And they are routed by category. So here you can see the ones related to Ember data, and it tells you how to generate adapters and adapter tests and model tests. And here we were looking to see how to create unit tests, and according to this, we create unit tests by the kind of object that we're trying to test. So, for example, if we wanted to create a unit test for a model, we have to use Ember generate model test, and it's give it a name for the model that we have to check, and it's gonna do that.
I think one thing I love about Ember is that it's like, especially Ember-CLI, is that it's so nicely documented. I
Yeah,
feel like whenever you're using it, I don't know, the documentation is amazing. Like I went through this uh trying to contribute to, well, I guess I did. I committed a line of code
yeah,
to,
that's really
to
great, actually.
yeah, to Ember yesterday, but like going through the setup process, we went down a few rabbit holes, but um because everything was so well documented, uh as we were going through the process, I didn't fall over. You know, we had to wander down a few paths, but the CLI always told me what to do, which is nice.
Yeah, it's very cool to
Okay,
know
so
it's
wait
here.
again. So like whenever you want to do, so basically if you go ember dash dash help, it gives you like general, and then if you say like ember test dash dash help or something,
Yeah, if
what
you,
was the last one you did?
for example, the
Oh,
Ember generate help.
oh, ember generate dash dash help, and it tells you all the things you can generate.
Yeah,
Okay. And then what about some other ones that you can do to like get more information? Like, can you do like Ember? Well, I guess Ember generate is like the biggest thing, right?
yeah, but
Like,
also
it's really all about generating stuff.
yeah, it also handles the serving and the testing, which is another thing that we can see as that this does.
Mm-hmm.
We can go and say Ember Tests, which is usually a command that we use to run on CI builds.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are other tools available, but this is the default one. So you can have your continuous integration test your app before it merges anything,
Mm-hmm.
or before deployments and stuff like that. So Ember Tests is going to create to build an instance of our application, and it's gonna pass the test to it and give us a result. In this case, it
Not all
failed
test path. Why?
because we didn't actually make anything with the tests, so they are just blueprints. Um, yeah, that's why they have to fail, because if we were following in this example uh, test-driven development,
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
would first fill in the test and then we would implement the features until the tests are passing. So having test failing is a good thing because you can realize that there's something not good going on. Um,
What other
yeah.
exciting things can we do with Ember-CLI?
Another thing that we can do is, well, there's actually another feature Ember Test that I wanna show you, which is Ember Test Server,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting because it's gonna watch for the changes that you're making in your application and keep the tests running. So if you're trying to figure out why a test isn't passing or what do you have to do to make a test pass, you can just have Ember Test Server in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Make your changes and then go back to see if they are passing now. Another cool feature of this is that you can run several uh, test engines, call it like that. For example, the default CI uses Phantom, but Ember-CLI can also handle Chrome, and you can also make it have the test run in Safari and Firefox. So you see that your application works in all the browsers, and you can do that with one command instead of
How do
having
you
to
do
do it
that?
manually.
Wait, just with the dash Ember test dash dash server?
Uh, yeah, let's see.
Like, how do you get all the other?
So here's when we use
All
the
other
help.
browsers. Ooh, ooh, magic. Did it work?
Ooh. Let's see. Oh yeah. So here it is. You have to use launch and give it a comma separated list of the browsers that we wanna test.
Oh my god, I love that.
So I don't know how you have to name them though. Maybe just Safari might work. Let's see.
And this is again, so this is making sure your test pass in all these browsers. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you can also use in your application. Ember-CLI also adds this route here. It's a special route. It's called tests. That's gonna run your test on the browser that you're looking at this. Oh yeah, it worked. Here's
Is it opening
but
all the things?
yeah, and the cool thing about running this through the command line is that it's gonna give you fresh instances for each browser.
That's awesome.
Because here you can see I have a different Chrome instance in which the tests are being run. Because you can see they fail on every browser, so I guess that's fine.
It's failing across the board. Well,
Yeah.
so that's good. So like you really understand where. Okay. I've never done that before. That's amazing.
And you can see all your browser with failing tests. Like full of chaos. But that's very useful when you are testing your stuff. And you can do that in parallel and check differences. Yeah, because quite often, like a lot of times I've seen that my test passes in Chrome, but not in Phantom, because Chrome has a much much modern implementation of ES6 features than Phantom. So that's when you get fancy with some of your syntax, you might have your test passing in Chrome but not in Phantom. And so it's cool to check it in different browsers and different things to know that whatever you're doing is going to work in the browser that you're supposed to support. And
That's super awesome.
And when you quit it, it's going to close the instances that it opened for you. So you don't end
Oh,
up
that's
having.
great. Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd have like tons and tons of windows open everywhere.
That's awesome. So what else can Ember-CLI do?
Okay.
Or is that basically it? I mean, that's a lot, you know.
No, but there's another thing that's useful, which is Ember init, which is not gonna be very useful in our case. But whenever you use Ember init, it's going to run the blueprints again through the application, which is something that we actually do whenever we update Ember, the Ember version, and it's part of the process. Because it's gonna go through the application to check, like, if what you have is according to the new practices of the new release. For example, the way Ember init works is that it's gonna go through different files that to check if oh, what is this? Just ignore. To check if you have kind of, for you to check if you have the latest Ember way of doing things. And we can go, if we choose D, it's going to show you what's the difference against the default blueprint. Like, this is a very delicate step whenever you update your application to a new version of Ember. Because here's where, if you do this wrong, you might end up having some pain in your life, because you would not have the most recent implementation, or you would overwrite your work, which might be a little bit harder to recover. Thankfully, we use Git, so it's not gonna be a big issue. But you can go through the file, check it if you have to change something on your file, and if you don't have, you just say skip. And if for example, here, the difference is that we remove this one, so we can just say no again, and then it's going to change. It's going to see the other things, and just reinitialize the application, which is installing again the npm models. Oh, which is not something that we want to do now. Oh, okay. That's a very useful feature that you are going to be using whenever you update Ember.
Just Ember in it,
Yeah.
and then it updates.
Well, it tries to apply the new blueprints to your current code. So that's kind of tricky because you might
Oh my
have
God,
some custom.
help me understand what do you mean by it applies the new blueprints? Like, so every time
Like for example, if you had an application in Ember 1.11, your application was created with the blueprint for Ember 1.11,
got it.
which for example didn't have Ember-CLI build, or because it used I don't even remember the name of the file, bro file. So your application was built with those blueprints, with like the default way of managing routes and the default way of organizing your code was according to those standards back in the day of Ember 1.11. So let's say you want to update to Ember 2.6. You have Ember, to know that you are using Ember 2.6, you have to apply the new blueprints to your old code. So it's going to try to initialize a new Ember application in your same code base. So by default, like you have to do this slowly. And that might be another idea for a different screencast, how to update Ember.
Yeah, I think I need to update one of my Ember apps.
Because it's going to try to kind of update, let's say, update your code by applying the new code or the new practices that are now built into Ember into your application. So you have to, that's why it's not the same as overriding everything, because that could destroy your features or could break things. So you have to go through every file that was changed in this new, that's particular of this new version, and it's going to check and you have to check manually if you want to override or if you want to make changes yourself to have the latest practices and the latest package versions without breaking your application. So that's when we use Ember Init.
That's awesome. Wow. So, oh my God, I just want to go through all the different, I want to go through all the different commands and like test it out and out and play. But I mean, I think, again, this sort of goes to show how stable Ember-CLI is and how easy and useful it is for people to use, and sort of like even just doing like Ember dash dash help,
Yeah.
and seeing like the bajillion things that you're able to do. Generating blueprints. The generating blueprints thing actually really excites me because I feel like Chris McCuller is giving a talk on it at DrumConf in 2 weeks or so. So, but yeah, I've been really excited about blueprints and sort of like the things that you could potentially do with blueprints. I think the helper thing is actually really intriguing as well, and I totally want to play with it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And the tests, still not writing any tests for my apps, but soon I'm going to be a TDD superstar, right?
Yeah, great.
Right. After like a bajillion pairing sessions with you, basically. Is there anything else you think that we should be talking about for Ember-CLI, or like anything else we should know?
Probably there are many other cool things here, but that's are the ones that I most often use from my experience with Ember.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Guys, you can follow Jorge on Twitter. What's your Twitter? It's just Jorge. Lan
It's,
Fiesta, right?
yeah, it's a little bit hard to write that, but yeah.
Did I even say it right?
Yeah, it's acceptable.
Oh my God. Say it for me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Wait, no,
Right.
no, no. Say your name for me so I can.
So it's Jorge La Infiesta.
Okay, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's
Wasn't that
great.
bad.
Yeah, there are some words that you can't actually say like completely well because it's the way our mouth work.
Yeah.
Which is the same for me in English. Like,
Oh, okay. Really cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And I guess Jorge, we're gonna be pairing a lot in the next few months. So y'all
sounds
can
great.
follow along our journey of doing things like upgrading apps and whatever other strange things we come up with.
Great. Thanks for having me,
All
Darcy.
right. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.